Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hello, friend, and welcome back to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. You know, if I close my eyes and squint just a bit, I am pretty sure I can see summer coming our way. I'm so excited. It's our last week of our spring semester. And yes, I can help anyone needing or wanting to play catch up this summer with their writing. We have our Wow Essay Essentials program. It's open now. It will stay open during the summer. In fact, I'm going to be adding some additional summer bonuses, and the price is going to be increasing on July 1st, 2026. So I will put the link that you need in the show notes this week. And if you want to save yourself $100 and get in now, you totally should. You will still get all of the additional pieces that I will be adding in on July 1st, but you will not need to pay an additional penny for all that goodness. And I would love to work with you this summer. What's nice about summer is it's a little slower. I can usually give more personal attention to the kiddos, which is really nice just because things are slowing down for me as well. So you should join Wow Essay Essentials if you haven't. Today, I really want to talk about something that many of us spend an enormous amount of energy trying to avoid, and that would be boredom. And not just our children's boredom either. Sometimes we have a hard time being bored. I know that I do. But as we head into summer, I know how many of you put so much pressure on yourselves to make the best summer happen. There's pressure to plan. There's pressure to keep your kids productive and active and involved. There's pressure just to make summer so meaningful or educational or magical or filled with the happiest of memories or the social outdoorsy, right? It's just, there's always somehow we're supposed to be enriching our children's lives all the time. But that's a lot. So if you were nodding your head in agreement, you're like, yeah, I want that. And I want that. I want all of that for my kids. I think it's very loving of you to want to do so much for those kiddos. But there is beauty in boredom. And that's what I want to talk about this week. I want you to embrace boredom. I want you to wonder, how can I bore my kids today? Sounds funny, I know. But the thing is, children do not need constant stimulation in order to have meaningful childhoods. In fact, learning how to be bored is a valuable life skill. And not feeling like we have to be doing something, going somewhere all the time, but instead peacefully resting, relaxing is actually good for us. I just know that for most of us, we were raised to call that lazy. I mean, I was told, well, only boring people get bored. The truth is, human people get bored. But when we add in boring people get bored, you can see that it's almost shaming somebody that you must be a boring person if you're human, because we all get bored. I do get the point, and I would even say it to my kids, like, you're not a boring person, so you'll find something fun to do. Go find something fun to do. But somewhere in all that pressure, boredom did start to feel like a failure. And I'm here to tell you it's not. So I'm going to go into some child psychology because you know I love that stuff. And I will tell you that child psychologists and researchers have been discussing boredom for decades. And many experts believe that boredom plays a major role in the development of creativity. So if you want your children to be more creative, you need them to be more bored. There's an author, her name is Dr. Sandy Mann, and she wrote a book called The Upside of Downtime. I will do my best to remember to link it. Sometimes I forget, and you guys remind me. You said you were going to link that. If I ever forget, just reach out to me on any social platform or email me, and I will send you whatever it is you want. But I will try to remember to link her book, The Upside of Downtime. But what she has done in her lifetime is conducted many studies, and through those studies, she has said that boredom increases creative thinking. And the reason why is that when the brain is not constantly occupied, meaning it's not stimulated by something else, it's more in a restful state, it's going to then engage in daydreaming. Kids do not daydream as much as they used to. They just don't. They always have something else taking up their time. But that daydreaming leads to internal reflection. And we want our kids to have that. And the brain needs to be in a non-stimulated state for that to happen. It has to be in a resting state. What she calls mental wandering is directly connected to the brain's creativity and problem-solving abilities. She has this great quote. I love this quote. It says, "Sometimes the brain needs empty space before it can produce an original thought." That's really good. I really love that, because children who are always on the go, constantly stimulated, always in front of electronics, they never really have to practice creating something from nothing. But here's the beauty. Boredom is often the doorway they need to open up their imagination, to open up their daydreaming abilities, to open up their internal reflection. But how do we bore our kids without driving ourselves crazy? Bored kids do not always look beautiful at first. Are you with me on this? Are you like, yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this, Melissa? It often sounds like, "I don't know what to do, Mom," or "this is just boring," or "there's nothing to do. I'm so bored." We have to listen to that first, and it's hard. Or maybe you find your son or your daughter is following you around the house while you're picking up or putting clothes away or trying to unload the groceries. I totally get it, but let me tell you what psychologists say about this. They explain that this uncomfortable stage matters. It actually has a name. It's called the transition stage. And what is transitioning is our children's brains. The brain itself is transitioning. It's searching for a dopamine hit. It's searching for something that's going to make it feel happy, but it's learning also. And it's learning that it may have to figure out how to tolerate stillness instead of immediately reaching for stimulation. It's uncomfortable, and it's why kids don't like it. And it's not going to hurt them. It's not. And doesn't it feel like this is something that's becoming a lost skill in our culture? That ability to just tolerate stillness? Shouldn't we want to equip our kids with this life skill? I mean, we live in a world where entertainment is available instantly and 24/7. I mean, I remember growing up, cartoons were Saturday morning. That was it. We just looked forward to that little block of time. I got maybe an hour or two before other things had to happen, and I had that time for cartoons, and that was it. It's not like that anymore. A child rarely has to sit in discomfort for more than, 3 seconds before grabbing a screen, opening an app, watching a video, scrolling for their dopamine hits. We really want to pay attention. Just notice over the next few days, how often is your child being bored versus entertained by something? What many researchers have found is that creative adults today are often the children who learned how to sit with open space when they were younger. And thoughtful adults are often the same people who learned how to tolerate quiet for extended periods of time. Problem solvers today were the ones who had opportunities to figure things out on their own without an immediate rescue when they were kids. So, in other words, boredom stretches our brains. Boredom is exercise. It's actually a mind exercise, and it's an exercise we want our kids to be doing this summer. And I do want to say something important as well. There is a difference between this picture that I'm trying to paint of a peaceful, slower summer versus neglecting our children. I am not talking about ignoring children emotionally or refusing connection with them. Of course not. We are talking about resisting the urge to overmanage every moment to make sure they're never bored, because there is a healthy middle ground. So you might be wondering now, got it, and what will this look like? You may already have some ideas. So if you don't have paper near you, you may want to grab some and jot down anything that comes into that beautiful brain of yours, because you already have great ideas. You really do. But let's talk about what it could look like for you and your family during the next couple of months. First, I think it helps to normalize boredom and to tell our kids, do you know that being bored is part of being human? It's actually exercise for your brain. Like, let them know that. I do not know if you've ever done this, but many of us who are striving to be awesome moms, giving our children the best childhood possible, think other things like, oh no, my kids are bored. I need to do more for them, with them. It's so important that we normalize it. So what if we just allow the boredom, talk to them ahead of time, believe nothing has gone wrong when you go through that stage of discomfort where they're going to be transitioning and they're not going to get those quick dopamine hits. They're going to whine, they're going to complain, and you're going to say, it's normal. That's all normal. This is part of boredom. This is your brain exercising. Nothing has gone wrong. And then toss out some confidence to your kids. Say things like, I know you. You're going to think of something to do. You're not going to do it for them. You can, of course, to some extent, for sure. But I just want you to realize that this tiny shift of normalizing boredom can create massive results for you this summer. Now, I highly recommend you do prepare for this ahead of time. So my suggestion is maybe this week or over the weekend, next week, sometime soon, put some thought into creating a summer home environment that invites creativity without you controlling the creativity. And believe me, you do not need some expensive Pinterest-worthy summer setup with shelves and summer bins. And no, simple is just as beautiful. Boxes can work just fine. But yes, I would make sure that you have some supplies, because supplies do offer inspiration to our children. You're just not telling them necessarily what to do, what to make. You're just saying, well, you're not going to be on screens, but you can use any of this, and you could have anything in there. Some things you probably already have, some board games, card games. Teach them a new card game that they can then play on their own. Throw in some art supplies or Legos or books, magazines, cardboard, construction paper. You can even put a stack of blankets and sheets somewhere that they could make forts in various rooms. You could just give them all a journal that's never been decorated and let them just decorate it and write whatever they want. Nothing structured. Have puzzles. I love puzzles. Have puzzles. Have Play-Doh, beads, string, sidewalk chalk. I would even throw in a pad of paper somewhere. Keep it in the kitchen or wherever, but just tell them, hey, if you have any ideas of things you'd like for supplies or suggestions of things we can do that you can just do on your own quietly, or together with a sibling or whatever, their contributions matter. You could even have a space where your kids could write down like maybe something they wanted to learn this summer. Everybody could write down a few ideas on slips of paper, fold them, toss them in a jar like a mason jar or a plastic bucket or something. And then once a week, each week, a different kiddo gets to pull out one slip of paper and everybody's going to learn how to do that. Or just the people who want to learn it, however you choose to do it. It could be things like maybe they've always wanted to learn how to bake and decorate a cake. Now that it's summer, it might be a slower time to do something fun like that. How to cook a simple meal. How to make a homemade popsicles or homemade ice cream. That's fun. How to plan a picnic. That would be a fun thing. And then, of course, you guys would get to go do it. We have a big 4th of July this year. It's the 250th birthday of America. Maybe you want to throw a small 4th of July party. How would you do that? What would you need to do? Do you need to construct some invitations? Maybe your kids have wanted to learn how to do photography with an actual camera or take better pictures with a smartphone. Maybe how to wash and detail a car or how to care for a new pet. How to plant a garden. It could be a flower garden. It could be a vegetable garden, fruit, whatever. Maybe even how to create a small summer business like a lemonade stand. I don't know. But not every meaningful summer memory has to cost money and mean like a trip to Disneyland or Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. I love things like that. That's so fun. But we don't need those things to have meaningful summer memories. We don't. We don't have to do elaborate planning. And that's what we want our kids to understand. Some of the strongest childhood memories, I want you to think about some of yours. I mean, some come from the most ordinary things that we just repeat consistently. I can remember cooking in the kitchen with my grandma, making lemon meringue pie. And what if you do make that cake and decorate it and then take it to a friend? That's a really special memory you're building. Or eating those popsicles that you made outside on the front porch on a hot day. These are strong childhood memories. Reading quietly on the couch or by the pool. Or what about sitting outside in the backyard? The sun is beginning to set. Can you picture it? It's just lovely. Playing board games as a family. Running through sprinklers and slipping on those slip and slides. Taking trips to the library. I remember this as a kid. My dad and my brothers would ride our bikes. We had a library not too far from us. And my dad was an airline pilot, so he'd be gone for 4 or 5 days at a time. But every time he came back, he'd say, "Hey, I need new library books. Come on, kids." And we would do that 3 or 4 times during the summer. And just riding the bikes, stopping and getting an ice cream, getting our books, riding home, sitting outside, reading my book. These are strong childhood memories. And they didn't cost much in the way of money or time. Taking neighborhood walks in the evenings when it cools down or first thing in the morning when you can hear the birds. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. I think I could just reminisce forever here. It sounds so lovely, nostalgic, ideal. But who right now is thinking, right, yes, but my child will choose screens every single time? You know what? You are probably not wrong. And that's why your kids need you to set those boundaries. Limit the screen time. That's good for them. And I'm going to explain why your kids do love those screens of theirs. Again, there's some psychology behind it. Have you heard of what psychologists call the effort gap? I don't know if you've heard of this before, but the effort gap is this space between discomfort and creativity. That's the effort gap. And human brains naturally move toward the easiest available rewards. They don't want a lot of effort to feel happy. They want very little effort to get to happy. And this is even more so for children. So think about this. If a screen offers instant entertainment, you are not going to have them saying, please, mom, let me be bored. They're going to struggle. They don't want to be bored. Their brain doesn't want them to be bored. Their brain is saying, no, we want something now, fun. Their brain is not thinking, I wonder what I could create that would be really amazing from this Play-Doh I have in front of me that's going to take me time, some frustration. It's not going to do that. That is way too far down the road for them to even see that Play-Doh could be fun when this screen is fun right this second. But that's why we need boredom, because boredom lets the brain rest so that we can daydream, we can think internally, we can tap into our creativity. It does all make perfect sense, doesn't it? If a highly stimulating, low effort activity is immediately available, of course the brain is going to choose that over something that's slower or requires higher effort. Imagine a child who has two options. I could put most kids in this and I know what they would pick. Option one, I want you to sit here quietly long enough to invent a game using all of these supplies I have right here. Or option two, here's a screen and a new game for you to play, and you just tap right here. Instantly, they have novelty, stimulation, entertainment, color, music, humor, dopamine. The brain will most certainly 99% of the time choose the easier dopamine path, option two. They just will because they're normal kids. But that is what I'm talking about when I say the effort gap. They want the reward to arrive before the effort. But we need to teach the reverse. We need to teach our kids, hey, let's put in the effort first, because you know what? That's a great life skill. And the reward will come later, because that is much of life, my friends. It's what we call the real world. Modern technology has dramatically shortened the effort gap. Kids do not want to put in effort. But years ago, if children were bored, think about you being bored as a kid. Were you? I mean, I was. I often had to come up with my own games to play, indoors or outdoors, with friends or by myself. I'd have to call a friend and schedule time that they could come over. Or I could go play at their house. My brothers and I would ride bikes for hours and explore outside. And where I get that may have too many safety issues these days, I totally get that. I still think there's something we can do. We just have to get creative ourselves. I remember creating in my mind these imaginary worlds. I would get lost in books. My brothers would tinker with things. They would build things. We had a cabin up in Big Bear, and there wasn't much to do up there. And we certainly didn't have electronics at the time, but those were some of the best memories of just slower days. Versus now, where stimulation can just appear instantly. And yes, if screens are the easiest option all day long, many children are not going to push through boredom long enough to reach a creative state. They're not going to say to you, Mom, I want to be bored today. They're just not. But we need to help them. And it doesn't make them lazy to be bored. It makes them human. I want to be careful the way that we approach this with them. It's okay to set some limits, to set some boundaries, to say, so this summer, we're going to just have slower mornings. In fact, we'll still have screen time. You guys love your screen time, but you get it for 2 hours after lunch or in the evenings, however you want to do it. But just set the boundaries. They're not in trouble. Nobody's in trouble. We just want to exercise our brain with boredom. Summer is such a wonderful time to let children rediscover themselves outside of the academics they do all year long. Although I do encourage that you continue to work on the 3 staples of learning, the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic, especially if you just memorized times tables. Do a little bit of practice there. Be reading, be writing, do a little math. But Summer also should allow for the boredom. And you know what else? For reconnecting. Not just reconnecting with a hobby, but reconnecting with each other in the family. I just hope you have more conversations, maybe more visits to grandma's or to Aunt Becky's house, more laughter, more rest, not laziness, rest. There's a difference. And sometimes the most productive thing a child can do is recover mentally from a long year. And maybe you need that too. So if you head into the summer feeling pressure to create the perfect summer experience for your kids, I want to gently remind you, they do not remember a perfect summer schedule. They remember the atmosphere, the environment, the people they shared it with. They remember how home felt. They remember whether there was peace and warmth and safety and laughter and connection, relationships. That matters deeply. That's not wasted time. That is childhood. And that's it for this week, my friend. I do hope this episode gives you permission to loosen your grip just a little bit this summer. Please share this with a friend who you know could use this kind of encouragement. You do not have to fill every hour to create a meaningful childhood. You don't. Sometimes beautiful things are going to grow in the quietest of spaces, like watching the clouds float overhead while you lay on a blanket in the green grass. That will make for a very story-worthy summer. Right on. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.